professionals and company supervisors. And we provide divorce coaching and case management, providing the guidance and direction that your divorcing employees so desperately need. Divorce is a huge disruptor, not only to the employee going through it, but to the company they work for. And our coaches have a very unique perspective on divorce that sets us apart. They have a deep understanding of the legal, financial, and emotional aspects of divorce, and they can handle even the highest conflict cases with compassion and professionalism. Our coaches are trained to look at the entire picture, helping your employees make good decisions based on their goals and their expectations. And if you are an HR benefits manager or an HR benefits provider or consultant, please reach out to us and see if adding our suite of solutions is a good fit for your business. And a reminder, we have SHRM credits for SHRM members, and I'll be posting a link to that at the end of this broadcast so that you can be sure to grab those. So today we're going to be talking about what a divorce coach brings to the divorce process and why you might want to have one, or in the case of Divorce Right Over 60, on your team for your employees. So let me tell you about Peggotty Cooper, who's joining us today. Peggotty Cooper is co-founder and president of the Certified Divorce Coach Program and founder and CEO of Career Strategy Roadmap. She is also a Florida Supreme Court of Florida Certified Family Mediator. For the past 12 years, as the CDC Certified Divorce Coach developer, Peggotty has been developing and working with new ways of engaging clients who are going through a divorce and teaching these frameworks to professionals already engaged in working with divorcing clients or with others. Many of these professionals are currently working in organizations and are looking for more fulfilling work in coaching people through the divorce process, in which they may have a significant personal or professional experience. Peggotty has held executive positions in Fortune 500 organizations in the hospitality industry and in high tech. Peggotty also served in executive roles in an international trade association and an international technology society, and later in her work as an executive coach, helping leaders make the industry and profession better from policy perspective to performance output. Peggotty is also named as a fellow of the American Society of Association Executives for the contributions she made to the profession of association management. Welcome, Peggotty. We're so glad to have you here today.
It is so lovely to be here with you.
So happy to have you here. I wanted to share, Peggotty knows my story, but I want to share it with our listeners today to understand what this can do. When I was divorcing, my divorce started back in 2010 and in the state of Florida. And in the state of Florida, you have to do something called fill out a financial affidavit. Each state calls it something else. Why there's so many different laws around and rules around this, it was always exacerbating to me. But my story was I couldn't get through my financial affidavit. Every time I put a pen to paper, it was a reminder to me that my marriage was a sham, that it was over. My life was definitely not what I thought it was. And I just simply couldn't do it until one day there was a knock on my door and I opened it, and a gentleman on the other side, young man, I can still see him as I'm telling you this story, hands me an envelope and says, "You've been served." And I was served, and I was being held in contempt of court for not filling out my financial affidavit. So I had 48 hours to do it. And because of my state of mind and the stress that was involved in that whole thing, I put a bunch of numbers down that I was hoping was right. I got myself maybe close, maybe not. But when you're under the gun of being held in contempt of court, you'll do anything. But I know I probably cheated myself out of a lot of things by not doing it correctly. And the one thing now that I know about divorce coaching, I know that if I had a divorce coach, my experience would have been different, my outcome would have been different, and my emotional health and well-being would have been much different. So today we're going to be talking to Peggotty about this very, very important role for your employees that are going through this process. So Peggotty, I want to start. What is the role of a divorce coach and how is it different from lawyers, from mediators, from financial advisors, and from a mental health therapist?
Well, I really like to start with the ABA
Mm,
reference to divorce coaching, which is on their site, because divorce coaching is it's both coaching and it's also a dispute resolution process.
mhm.
And this process lives beside all of the other dispute resolution processes. So, and what the ABA site says is divorce coaching is a flexible, goal-oriented process designed to support, motivate, and guide people going through divorce to help them make the best possible decisions for their future based on their particular interests, needs, and concerns. Divorce coaches have professional backgrounds and are selected based on the specific needs of the clients. For example, divorce coaches are sometimes financial planners, mental health professionals, lawyers or mediators, and others with the training and background that clients need.
100%. What I love about this whole process is that, and you've been able to pull experts that, I mean, I know on our team that have been trained by you personally
Mhm.
are former family law attorneys that have decided that divorce coaching is a better fit for who they
Mhm.
are as professionals and as human beings and what they want to see in the divorce process. So that's why I love what you do and how you've been able to bring real professionals to the table. So now that we've kind of talked about that, what skills do the CDC certified coaches bring to the table that could contribute to maybe a positive outcome for people experiencing divorce at work?
Well, the first thing, and it's sort of a continuation of what is a divorce coach, is that a divorce coach, so the clients who come, like yourself, right? Totally new babe in the woods in this whole realm of divorce. Don't know a thing, um, very competent in what they do in their life,
Yeah.
and suddenly they're confronted with a legal process which requires all kinds of really activities of, regarding finances and just sort of gathering everything together. And they're just that sometimes people are just overwhelmed. The most competent sort of feel very incompetent. And none of us react very well when we feel stupid.
Isn't that the truth? And I got to tell you, I'm a smart girl
Mhm.
and I had been through it before and I still made mistakes. You
Everyone's different.
Exactly right. And when you wake up that one morning and you hear those words, I want a divorce, what do? Right? Where are you supposed to go? What kind of training could you possibly have had to help to go through that? And unless you're a professional in our industry, I don't think that I think you're a babe in the woods. You're a deer in headlights.
So, one of the things that we have to do is we have to help them to become credible clients for
Right.
all of the professionals that they're going to work with. And, that what that entails often is helping them to get organized, helping
Mhm.
them to gather all of the information they need to put on those financial documents. We often work with worksheets that are not quite as complicated as the
Right.
financial documents that they can hand to somebody else to really fill out. And that's needed because the attorneys often need to respond to other, to the opposite attorney to give them information. They need to be able to have answers. And if you've got to go scrambling around and looking for it, so having everything together in one place and organized is really one of the very first things we do, often with people who have been served papers
Yeah.
saying, you're getting divorced, you've got 21 days,
Right,
right?
and you really do, you have to be on top of it, and sometimes, for whatever reason, it's really, really hard to do that by
Mhm.
yourself,
Oh,
and I feel
absolutely.
right, and I felt so isolated when I was
Mhm.
going through it because it's so personal, and the information that they need I remember having to write down, like, how much I spent on getting my pool cleaned
Mhm.
or my grass cut. And it was just, again, every time it was exhausting to me.
Right.
And to have somebody that can do that with me, because it's done with me, not for me, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
right. And that I could have had a somebody that actually understood the process to help me make sense of it all, I think would have
Mhm.
been unbelievably helpful.
Because that distinction that you just made, we do it with you, not for you. There are a lot of people, attorneys, financial people, that are doing it for you often, right? But we do it with you so that as the client sits down and starts working at, they're beginning to learn something in the process. They're learning something about themselves. They're learning what their obstacles are. We work with them on the obstacles that they have, just the walls of resistance they put up, because this is all change that's going on in their
Abs-
life. It's not just the legal process. It's everything, right?
Well,
It's this whole environment in which they're living now. They're on an emotional roller coaster. There's so much change going on, and they're very fearful about. They know nothing about the future. What was their life that they were counting on has suddenly ended.
right,
And
absolutely. One of the things that I say, there's two things that you've brought to my attention, was that I say things like divorce isn't a legal crisis and it's not a mental health crisis. It's an all-encompassing
mhm,
life crisis. And that's what, when you know, employers can have EAP programs, and they
mhm,
can have discount legal services or discount mental health services for their employees. And that's all wonderful. But that's not this.
mhm.
That's not the process of divorce. So, speaking of the process of divorce, how does the divorce process start?
So, so it can start in many different ways, right? It can start by somebody knocking on your door and saying, "You've been served papers."
Right.
Or it could start by somebody thinking about divorce for a long time. Sometimes it goes on for many years that people are in this decision indecision cycle. And and often it starts by people not wanting to have this conversation with their spouse.
Yeah.
And so they engage somebody else to do it. Now, that's what we call blindsiding someone. And I'm not sure if you've ever been blindsided by anything, but it is not a good way to start anything.
No,
And so so it's like a shot across the bow, right? And the only thing you know how to do when somebody has declared war on you is you need to go and get somebody to protect you. So already it's an adversarial process.
yeah.
And how the divorce starts sets the trajectory for how the whole thing goes.
What? Preach, girl. Yes, yes, you're exactly right. And that's why, for me, the brand of divorce is, you got to lawyer up. You need to get a shark. You need to get a bulldog. Well, that's not always the
There's
case.
so many different options. But that's one of the complicated features of starting divorce, right? Okay, so do I want to hire a lawyer? Do I want to have a mediator? Do I want collaborative divorce? Do I want to sit down at the kitchen table? Do we think we can do it ourselves? How am I going to do it? And there are lots of considerations. Do I want it to be public? Like when you file something, it's immediately public, or do I want it to be private? Do I want to have a lot of say in the matter? Do I want to be able to, together with my spouse, do this, or do I never want to speak to them or see them during this whole
Right.
process, right? And and you also need to decide, do I have such a relationship with them that we can actually talk about things? Because if you can't communicate, and that's often the cause of the marriage breakdown, is that people haven't been able to communicate. It is going to be a long and costly process.
Oh God, yes. And which leads me to my next thought, which is, why does this legal and financial process get so derailed, right? Crazy. And what can a divorce coach do to impact that in a positive way? How do they bring it out of that craziness?
Well, the first thing is that you have to recognize that there are limitations of a legal process, right? The limitations are it's about finances, it's about property, and it's about
Children.
and it's about continuing your responsibilities and obligations as parents, as co-parents to children. So let's assume that they've been blindsided by a divorce and they're angry. They've started down this path of anger and denial, and they're at the very beginning of the whole process. The other person, who may have been thinking about it for some time, maybe years, is now anxious to move on with their life.
Mhm.
They've already gone through all of the emotional um, upset and
Turmoil, right? Just
turmoil that your client may be going through right now, or that you as a client might be going through. And so, what happens in that is that immediately your nervous system is on high alert.
Mhm.
Everything is a threat. Everything is seen with a threat. And people who are under threat with their hot buttons pushed all the time do not make good decisions. It's not a good time to be making decisions.
What
There are some jurisdictions, countries where they say you need a 6-month break. You need to take 6 months before we're gonna approve a divorce. So you've got some time. You've got some time to cool down. You've got some time to maybe take a breath or two, and then begin to perhaps seek mediation for some things that you think could easily be resolved, or to just get better educated about everything and
right.
be further down the emotional, that whole emotional journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's tough too to recognize that you're having a problem with making decisions. And one of the things, we there's an amazing neuroscientist out at UC Berkeley. Her name is Diana Coffer, and she has the Coffer Lab, and she studies stress on rats.
Hmm.
It's all she does, and she's amazing. And she explained to me what happens when cortisol, that fight or flight hormone, is released. That moment that you hear, "I want a divorce," right? Then your body is flooded with this
I'm
hormone,
ready.
right? And that gets into the nooks and crannies because it goes into your brain, starts in your adrenal glands, goes up into your brain and coats it like honey. And your ability, particularly in your prefrontal cortex, is diminished because you don't, back in the day when that, by the way, the cortisol has very it's there for a very good reason. Back in the caveman days, you had a tiger going across the cave door, and you had to be able to get up, get blood to your glutes, and get out fast, right?
Right.
The
Yep.
challenge, right? But that was like a 15-minute, maybe 30-minute event in your life. The stress of divorce is constant, and it can be days, weeks, months, and years. And what it does, so that you could get up and run away from the tiger, it shuts down other things and systems that you don't need.
Including
And one
that
of the things you
brain.
don't need to know is how much is in your checkbook, what's for dinner, what time you have to pick up the kids. Those kinds of things they get lost because that's not what your body thinks is important. So, and that's why
Hmm.
I have a training says that your divorcing employee is not crazy, it's cortisol,
Hmm.
because it does keep you from making really positive decisions. So you have to let that go away and remove itself from the brain. The best ways for that, by the way, are yoga and meditation. Isn't that
Hmm.
interesting? So, it's a crazy, crazy time to be making the most important decisions of your life.
And even as a divorce coach, we recognize that our clients, when they are so jacked up with these emotions and this reactivity, they're not even going to be able to hear what we're saying. So we actually have to learn how to de-escalate our clients really fast
Mhm.
so that they can take the emotion down and now be actually able to hear what
And
it is that we are talking with each other about. Because it's only when they can think new thoughts can they begin to develop new awareness about their situation and recognize that I don't just have one choice here. I have many choices. You
Mhm.
know, one of my favorite one of my favorite uh, uh, guidance is, and it's from Dr. Seuss.
Mm.
When bad things happen, you have three choices. You can let it define you, you can let it destroy you, or you can let it make you stronger.
Mm. I love that.
And so we have choices all along, but until they are willing to look at the choices, until they're willing to let go of those things that they're white knuckle hanging on to, the only answer for me is to keep the house, right? The only answer for me is, to get everything, right? Leave you with nothing.
Right.
And so as a result of that, it's just, you've really got to calm it down just as a divorce coach. So that, and the problem is, of course, that when there isn't somebody, like, we're the bridge between that person that is sort of new to the game, and all the people that are experts, the attorneys, right? The mediators, they're all experts, and they're very good at what they do. They're very good at what they do, but they don't have the understanding that before they can even start talking to their clients, they need to calm them down. They need to de-escalate them. And it isn't by listening to the divorce story, which is, of course, where the client often comes. Let me tell you about what's going on, because all that does is it reactivates that fight and flight response. And so but they're not trained to do that. So we, as the bridge between them, can say, listen, you're going to a meeting, and what you need to hear the thing. Let's make sure that you're really prepared for that meeting. So going back to the notion of a credible client, what the attorneys tell us is that they want their clients to be prepared to deal with the business of divorce, to have realistic expectations about the process, about the outcomes that are likely to happen, about the way in which they're going to engage with the attorney. And often that's never talked about,
Mm.
because we hear from clients who say, I need to fire my attorney. They're not doing anything that I expect them to do. And when you ask them, have you talked to them about what your expectations are? They of course say, well, no, right? I didn't know I was supposed to do that. They're the professional, right? They
Right.
should be telling me. So, it just all along, you just begin to feel clients often feel like a victim of the process because nobody is on their side.
Right. It's tough.
And so we as divorce coaches have to be on their side, and whether we agree with what avenue they're trying to pursue or not, that's not our decision.
It's
It's
not.
the client's decision. And we can help them see perhaps some cracks in their assumptions by asking questions, listening
Mhm.
and asking questions about, you know,
Have you
what,
thought
what,
of
yeah, or or what happens. I'm just curious, because when you ask things out of curiosity, people don't say, "Oh, you're just trying to trick me, aren't you?"
Yeah.
They say, "Oh, I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, you're right. I am going to have the roof repaired. That's going to cost a lot of money. I don't know where that's going to come from." Right? So 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 we have to help them reset their expectations for all of the ways that they're going to engage with people. And they need to be able to ask good questions of the attorney, because it's just going to be them and the attorney, right? We're not part of that process because of the confidentiality between client and attorney. But they want to ask good questions. They want to be able to communicate their needs. What are my needs? I don't even know what my needs are, right? So we work with people on really zeroing in on not only what do they want right now, but what do they want on the other side of this?
Right.
Because on the other side, you're going to start a new life. What do you need for that life? Because this is the time over here to ask for what you need over there.
Well, one of the things that always kills me, and I see this, and I'm sure you have a lot, is people in that cortisol flooded brain go, I don't just give him everything or give her everything. Right. And that comes from wanting to get away from pain of
Right.
this whole
Oh,
process. Right.
yeah.
But that's a different conversation for somebody that's 25 to 30 versus somebody that's 55 and 60,
Mhm.
right? So we have to be mindful of where they are in their life and
Mhm.
what making some of these decisions can mean long term. To your point, it's
Right.
what is this going to do to you? You can make that decision now, but what does that
Mhm.
mean for you 10 years from now? You know?
Right.
So, what are your best insights as a divorce coach for employees going through a divorce?
Well, all of those things
Mhm,
that help you become a credible client,
mhm,
right? Getting organized, being engaged in the process, asking good questions, communicating your needs, having reasonable expectations, focusing on the business at hand, and recognizing that divorce is a negotiation. There's going to be some give and take in that. And so you want to be able to hear where are the opportunities to find common ground in all of that, and being able to prioritize. I can't help but think if I were an employer, I would want employees who are doing that in their work, right? In their jobs. So if we can help them be better at doing that, better because the duress of divorce can really be um, difficult. If they can do it in divorce, they can do it back in the workplace, right?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely,
So
and
I think that everything that you need to do to really be effective in divorce is going to be helping you to with the guidance of a divorce coach to be better at work because you're going to be building new habits,
mm,
the new habits that you want to have in the future, right?
mhm.
In the next life, in that life that you have to create, sometimes just by being becoming head of household, and therefore recognizing it's so important to keep my job.
Right.
Or it's so important to
That's
advance in the company,
that's
right?
really
Like
yeah,
making myself more valuable.
right. Well, one of the things that, I think that is the best in terms of what happens, to an employee that immediately finds out. And one of the things that we do is we train employers about what divorce looks like because you don't necessarily know. Three to 5% of your employee base is going to go through some sort of family transition this
Mhm,
year, whether they're thinking about it. Those couple of years we talked about earlier that they're thinking about a divorce. They're starting it. They're in the middle of it. Mine was 3 years. So was the
mhm,
majority of the people that I know was 3 years,
mhm,
although that seems to be longer than average, but in a complicated case, it can last for that and longer. But at the end of the day, divorce is uncertainty. They
mhm,
have they wake up, they hear those words, "I want a divorce," and they don't know what to do. They are completely at a loss for where they're gonna live, how they're gonna live, what's gonna happen to their children.
mhm,
Are they gonna be able to maintain their job? All of that is the uncertainty plus many, many more that employees go through when they find that out.
mhm,
And what I love about the process that we take them through with divorce coaching is we give them a plan, guidance, and direction that they can follow. It's a plan that they've
mhm.
created for themselves. It may not be my plan. And to your point
Right,
earlier, they may want
right,
something that we
right.
sit there and go, no, that's not a great
Really,
idea. But this is your
it's not
divorce.
mine.
Exactly. It's yours. It's not mine. I'm going to help you get where you want to
I
go or
wanna
as
go.
close to that as I can. But ultimately, with a plan, guidance, and direction, the temperature in the room goes down, right? They're
Mhm,
no longer spinning up here, and they can go back to work as a functioning and productive employee and team member. And so it's such a win-win here
mhm,
because the average employee loses about 40% of their productivity for the length of their divorce. 40% on an average employee making $58,000 a year is over $23,000
mhm.
a year to the employer. So I want the employer to understand that there is, even though you think it's none of your business, it is your business.
Mhm.
This is your business. So taking care of your employees during this process is a smart decision.
And a lot of that wasted time and energy is done because there's all of this stuff is swirling around. So
Just
one of the things that we really help them with is to get focused,
yes.
to
And
really
then
get
they can
focused.
right, and then they don't have to do all of that at work. They
Mhm.
have their plan. They can take a breath and they
Right.
know it's still uncomfortable, it still stinks, but it's at least now
Mhm.
they have guidance, direction, and a plan that works for them. And that's the goal of all of this. So again, Peggy, thank you. This was such an awesome conversation with you today. And you have created a company that I wish had been around for me and that I wish I had known about because I would never have gotten that knock at the door.
Mm.
Um, so Peggotty, I've posted our SHRM member, SHRM credit link in there, but right now I want to let them know anybody that wants to become a divorce coach, how do they reach out to you, Peggotty?
So our website is certifieddivorcecoach.com, and we have a lot of information on the site about Certified Divorce Coach. There's also a little maroon bar on almost every page that says click here to make a call and speak with, they will speak with either Randy or myself, and we're the co-founders, and they can talk and ask all the questions they want. We also have a divorce masterclass, a divorce coaching masterclass that is really 6 parts, and we're kind of in the middle of that now because we start our next program in May, early May, May 2nd. And so, it's a great opportunity to really understand more about what divorce coaching is and the kind of uh, uh, benefits that clients get from it, and the kinds of requirements that are needed for becoming a divorce coach. And so that's also there
Well,
for
awesome.
people to sign up for free.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Peggotty, you are so awesome. I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to work with you and the people that you've trained as a part of Divorce Right. So thank you so much. And I want to remind everybody that we do this every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time here on LinkedIn. And we look forward to having more of these conversations about how we can help your employees as they move through one of the most traumatic events of
Mhm.
their life with ease and grace. Again, thank you so much. Peggotty, thank you so much. And we will talk.
Thank